Hello you guys. I figured I'd make a video right fast with you guys. Just a shorter video of me walking around the yard this morning and talking to you guys before it gets too far out in the month, because today is November 2nd, 2025, and I just wanted to kind of talk about Halloween, even though it's already over with. And you can see the fall colors on the mountains and stuff. It's still morning time, but it's getting later. It is raining out here, so I hope the raindrops don't cut the phone off or nothing. But you can see the fog going over top the mountaintops there. Anyways, I just wanted to talk about how the difference is from how it was whenever I was growing up with Halloween and stuff. Like, everything that's changed, even in the past, well, ever since the cough years, 5 or 10 years or now or so, how stuff has just changed when it comes to Halloween and stuff and celebrating. And I haven't really said much about it, but I'm not going to get into it on this video, but I don't really celebrate the holidays that much, for all kinds of different reasons and stuff now that I'm older. But whenever I was younger, I was brought up in a household that did celebrate the holidays and stuff, and all the traditions of society and stuff like that. And I have, because I live where I live at, and I lived here all my life. I just moved one house over. I grew up in that brick house, and I just moved over to this house. But so I grew up around it, and my children's grew up around it. So that's why we've kind of stuck to still celebrating the holidays or whatever. Anyways, though, I just wanted to talk about it, where this year, which I really didn't pay that much attention. I usually just shut my curtains and turn off all the lights, to be honest, in the past 5 or 6 years or so, when it comes to Halloween, because, well, one thing is I can't afford to buy candy for everybody and stuff, because I'm low income and poor right now. And well, the other day, whenever it was Halloween, I didn't notice anybody at all. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention, and that could have been it, but I didn't notice anybody walking on this road or waiting on their children trick-or-treating or nothing like that. And it was cooler. It has been getting cooler and stuff, so that might have been why. I'm not really sure. But I just know I didn't notice not one person out here on the road trick-or-treating or nothing. My youngest daughter's got to pick up her Halloween decorations and get them inside. But and I haven't noticed that many people like it used to be. People around here used to, especially when I was growing up. Look at how beautiful the colors is on that mountain and stuff with the fog and it changing the fall colors. But when I was growing up around here, people used to really go all out for Halloween, especially. And I've always liked the fall, and I've always liked Halloween, because I've always felt like, especially when I was younger, I always felt like Halloween was one of the society's holidays that nobody misses out on. Everybody's included in. Whether it's the devil's holiday or whatever, people still get, whether you're pretty, you're ugly, you're fat, you're skinny, whatever, you always get acknowledged or not frowned upon on Halloween, so you're not left out or nothing. So that's one of the reasons why I always did like it whenever I was younger and stuff. Let me try to climb up this railroad tracks. It's kind of slippery because, like I said, it is trying to rain and stuff. But anyways, though, I just didn't see nobody this year. I didn't even see anybody on the roads and stuff like they used to be. So I think what happened, and it's just my opinion, of course, but I think there's a lot of factors as to why that we don't see as many people celebrating Halloween or any holidays as far as that goes is like how it used to be whenever I was younger growing up. And one of those factors is you have to factor in the whole cough years, the whole, 2019 on up stuff. You had to factor in all that. I think that played a big part in people just being paranoid, suspicious, social distancing, stuff like that. And then, too, just the economic situations in general, just the economy in general. People just don't have that kind of money, especially around here. I mean, they really never did all my life. There was spurts or time periods when people might have had money or jobs or whatever, and there has been and hasn't been. And it's not really because of AI around here taking over the jobs or nothing. It's just been like that. I'm 43 years old, and it's been like that all my adult life that I knew anything about the economy and stuff like that. So, I mean, like right now, I didn't show you all or nothing, but if I was to go to Walmart, well, it would be on sale now where Halloween's over. I'm not sure how much it would be off for sale, but anyways, if I had went to Walmart and bought a bag of just one bag of candy from Walmart for Halloween, before Halloween, I would have had to pay like $30 for a bag of candy, and that's in today's 2025's economy. So, and if you have a place like how it used to be here, like let's just say for instance how it was whenever I was growing up and I was a child, and yes, that was a long time ago. But anyways, all these houses up down here used to when I was growing up, which obviously a lot of people's passed away and not living no more. And some of the houses got destroyed during the floods and stuff. But there used to be a lot more people around here for whatever reasons. Some people might have got old and passed on. Some people might have been young and moved away looking for better jobs or whatever. But all these houses and stuff around here where I live at, whenever I was younger, everybody would hand out candy and stuff. And let's just say, for instance, if a person would have had to buy candy for that many trick-or-treaters back in my time period, well, back then, sometimes back when my parents was handing out candy and stuff, sometimes they would get up to like 200 and some trick-or-treaters. So could you imagine buying at $30 a bag of candy, or even $24 or $23 or whatever it is for a bag of candy? I think it's like $29 though. It's right at 30 around here and stuff, because even though I live in a very rural place, the prices around here are extremely high, and they always are. We get really high prices on everything, just like you would in a city, even though I live so rural and far out and stuff. It's just, I don't know, it's just the way it is. But, and so the prices are terrible around here. They're extremely high, and people's incomes around here, most people are poor. Most people are living on disability or Social Security, and they just don't have that. And like I said, even back when I was growing up and I was younger, there wasn't many jobs, and back when the coal mines was kind of booming a little bit, that's all there was the coal mines, and not a lot of people would work in the coal mines because it's a very dangerous job. So I don't know, I just think there's a whole lot of factors to everything, but that's some of them. And that's one of the reasons why I don't like Halloween or any of the holidays anymore. It's just because I'm poor and low income and I can't afford it. And it's not no fun when you're poor. It's depressing because you're always stressing out, you're always worrying. And living in today's modern society, we're always comparing ourselves or trying to, especially like with me and my children. My child, the only one I have that's still in school, she goes to a public school. That's how it is whenever you go to any public school or anything. You, whether you like it or not, the truth is the truth. And people are always comparing, people are always competing, and everybody wants their child to have just as nice stuff or whatever, just like the next child or whatever. And we all want better for our children. If you love your children at all and care for your children at all, you want better for them than what you had whenever you were growing up and stuff. So, but all we can do is the best we can do with what we have and what we got or whatever. But anyways, I just can't afford that $30. But I didn't have not one trick or treater. In the years past, I have had like people come to my house and tried to trick or treat, and sometimes I have gave them candy and stuff like that whenever I had it. But most of the time, just to be honest, and I'm not trying to be mean about it, it's just because where I'm low income and poor, I just can't afford it. But I just ignore Halloween, you know. But my daughter, the one that's the youngest one, she's 15 years old, getting ready to turn 16. And so she didn't even go trick or treating this year. The only trick or treating she did was what the high school provided. And they did provide like a bag of candy, I think, for each student, which was really nice. And they don't always do that, but that was really nice that they did that this year. And then she went out and stayed all night with one of her friends, and they went to a haunted house. But, I would rather see teenagers nowadays trick or treating, or adults, or whoever wants to trick or treat. Nowadays, trick or treating is to going around and being violent or acting out or whatever, acting up and damaging property or doing drugs or misbehaving or getting in trouble. That's just my opinion. But I don't know, it's just like all holidays ain't the same as like it was for my children and these future generations, like how it was whenever I was growing up. And we used to start early after school, and when we would trick or treat when I was a child, and then we wouldn't get home until like 9 something at night, it seemed like. And we would go to every single house on this road here. We would go up in that holler there, up in Blair Branch. We would even go up all the way up this road and up in that little tiny holler up in Spring Branch. We'd also even cross the highways, and we'd go to local businesses, and we would go up in other hollers around here whenever I was younger trick-or-treating. It's just not the same at all. And then too, I think in the like early 2000s, probably the same. My oldest daughter's 21 years old, and so probably about the time that I had her, I think that's whenever trunk or treat started becoming a thing. And I think trunk or treat, which I like trunk or treat to be honest, I think it can't, I'm just saying, I think that that's part of the reason why people don't get out and go house to house like they used to, trick or treating and stuff, is because I think the trunk or treat thing kind of took away from that too. Like, I'm sure because people, you have to watch your children, and you don't want nobody to do mean things to your children or to their candy or whatever. And it's just easier to just to have everything set up in one location and then have them to go trunk or treating. I do like the trunk or treating. I think that's a good thing. But I'm just saying, I think that's part of the reason why people don't go like walking around all over the place like they used to house. And also, people can't trust people like how it was, in my time period or whatever and stuff like it was back then. You have to, people are weird and mean, and you just can't trust everybody. So you have to really watch your children and stuff. But I do like the trunk or treat. I think that's a good thing. I wish that they would just do that instead of like even over here where I live at and stuff. Even though I really didn't get no trick or treaters this year, and I didn't see nobody on the road, I didn't even see nobody walking on this road over here to go to my parents' house to trick or treat. I don't even know if they handed out candy. I didn't see nobody. And last year, at least, we did have, or I seen about 30 people, I think, last year walking on this little road right here to go over there and get candy. And I didn't even see nobody this year. So that's what I'm saying. I think, I don't know, I just think that the trick or treating, walking house to house thing must be even a thing of the past, even around here, from what I can tell, because I didn't see nobody. And whenever I went out to the store, I had to run out to the store to get laundry detergent to do some wash some clothes and stuff. I seen a lot of traffic, but I didn't see a whole lot of people dressed up. I didn't see a whole lot of people out trick or treating. I only seen like maybe one or two vehicles that had pulled over with a group of kids or children and had them out trick or treating. And there is a couple places that's near kinda to where I live at that a couple church groups do like the trunk or treat type thing or whatever. But even that trunk or treat thing that's nearby where I live at, it's not a big thing. It's not like a whole bunch of cars or nothing like that sit over there. It's just basically one little church group that does the trunk or treat type thing, and that's about it. And there is some other things. Now, I don't know if they did it this year or not. I'm sure they did. I just didn't hear about it. But there is some things in here in Letcher County with like some people that do have franchises or businesses or whatever, local businesses. In other words, they have some money to spare, got some grants or something going on. But anyways, they do have like some things usually, and I'm sure they did it this year. It's just like I said, I didn't hear about it. But I'm sure they had like a place where they did trunk or treat this year too, because they did it pretty much every year. They started doing that. Local businesses did, like the bigger ones. They started doing that probably about every year that I know of, anyways. After the big flood that we had in my time period of living around here back in the July flood of 2022, the big one. And so there was a lot of local businesses that started doing like trunk or treat and stuff like that for Halloween. So I'm sure they did it too. I just didn't hear of nothing or anything like that, but I don't know what it is. And I'd say that's the things I'm looking at of the reasoning why it seems like Halloween and trick or treating just is becoming a thing of the past is because, well, the economy is just so bad in general. There's no jobs around here, hardly at all. For the people who are able-bodied to work and stuff, there's hardly no jobs. And it's not so much around here where I live at. I'm not really that worried about, like, obviously I don't work, but for the other people who do work, I don't even think they have to worry about AI like that much. It's not going to be AI around here that's taking over people's jobs. I don't think for another, I could be wrong. There might be a few and far in between, in my opinion, of job takeover from AI around here locally. But I don't think people has to worry about that for another probably 10, 15 more years or so around here. It's just that there's not many, just the economy's bad, it's bad all over. It's just that there's not no jobs. There never was no jobs, really. Even like I said, I'm 43 years old, and there really never. About the time I started being an adult and able to work was about the time that all the jobs in the economy, because I'm a millennial, I'm one of the first millennials. I was born in 1981. So that's when we had this supposal first economy recession or whatever you want to call it back in like 2008. And so that's whenever they was changing a lot of stuff back then, just with the economy and jobs in general. I remember one of the last jobs that I worked back then, like even in fast food, I was working at fast food at one point in time. It was one of my jobs. And which, like I said, I live in a real rural place. Things just work out differently in rural places than what they do, cultures and everything, than what they do around even the rest of the United States or whatever. But things are just ran differently. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm just saying in general, like whenever I worked at a fast food job back in 2008, back then, because I'm a little bit slow, I ain't gonna lie, and it takes me a little bit longer to learn certain things. I'm not the smartest cookie in the box or whatever, but I try my best or whatever. I always have it, whatever I do. But anyways, back whenever I was able to work, I'm probably, I've never really been diagnosed for it, but I'm probably a little bit dyslexic, and I have a real hard time with numbers and stuff, and money, and just counting and telling time and stuff like that on clocks and stuff. And so I'm pretty sure I'm like dyslexic and stuff to a point. And then also I've always had a hard time at like spelling and stuff like that. But anyways, whenever I got hired on at one of my jobs at a fast food place, they always they hired me on knowing that I couldn't work the cash register, more or less. And that's whenever things were starting to go more digital on computers and stuff on the cash registers. Like they were starting to change out the cash registers, changing them over to be more computerized and stuff like that. And so I hardly ever, for the longest time, whenever I was working fast food, had to work at a cash register, because I can't, to be honest, I can't count money. Like, I can't count money back like you would have to do to work a job. I can't do that stuff. And sometimes in fast food, it has happened before around here, even back whenever I was working and stuff. The computers do go down, like the power will go off or something like that. And so the electronics and stuff would go down. And you'd have to use a calculator or just be able to do it in your head. And I couldn't do that. And I didn't ever want to be held responsible at a job either, because I didn't do my math right. Not because I would steal or something like that, because I'm not a thief, but I could really get my math wrong. And so I didn't ever want to be responsible for like counting down a drawer on a cash register or nothing like that. And then also back then, like I said, on like the drive-through and stuff, like their computers, they were starting to update them, and they were really hard to figure out. And so I was close back then to that boss or my manager that I did have, and she was always nice to me up until that time period. And then, and I know she didn't do it to be mean to me. It's just a part of life, and it's just something that happens. But anyways, she was expecting me to do be able to do every job in that place, even at working at a register or fast food. And so that's how they were switching things over whenever I was working, and I just couldn't do it no more, to be honest, because of that. Because I couldn't ever learn how to count down the drawer, and I didn't want to be held responsible because I made a mishap in counting and stuff, with even if it was change, because you had to count everything. But and be accused of stealing or something and get fired or something over it anyways. So that's one reason I quit working in fast food, one of the main reasons. And plus, because they was going to put more work on me, because I was the one that would go in there. Back then, I was their breakfast cook, and so I would have to get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning and leave out, and I was the only one in the store, and I'd have to get everything ready and clean and everything, which I didn't mind none of that stuff. And I have to put, like, back then I was working at Arby's, so I'd have to put like the roast beef in the oven, the bacon, the sausage, and all that stuff, because I was the breakfast cook and I was also their prep cook. And so, and then I was also like there for the lunch hour, and sometimes I'd have to stay over. And then if someone didn't want to show up for work, or they wanted to miss or whatever, I had to fill in their position, no matter what their position was. But whenever I first got hired in, what I'm saying is they hired me for a specific position whenever I first got hired in. But then whenever the economy started crashing back in 2008, that's whenever the computer systems and stuff like that started getting more advanced. And honestly too, which I know this is different from a lot of people where a lot of people live at and stuff too, but like I said, obviously I live rural, and there was some locals that I was working with. They were jealous of me, just to be blunt. And the reason why they was jealous of me is because I had that privilege from where I first got hired in. Because like I said, I got hired in for a specific position. But then that girl, one of the girls that I worked with, and I was actually friends with her, but that's how it goes. She started getting jealous because that's all she did. Whenever she got hired in too, she would always work the registers. And she got tired of it. She got tired of it, which I don't blame her. I'm not saying that or nothing, but she got tired of working the cash registers in the drive-through window all the time. And usually the one that works at the drive-through window back then, they'd have to do like 2 or 3 jobs too, so I don't blame them. They'd have to go from the drive-through window to bag up like the sandwiches and stuff like that. Sometimes have to work the front cash register. So they were doing a lot, you know? And so I don't blame them at all. But I remember she was even like, she started screaming and cussing, to be honest. And I ain't saying this girl's name. And I don't blame her or whatever. But she started screaming and cussing. And she was like, she even said the big word, you know. She was like, GD, why doesn't JC, my name's Jessica, so she's like, why doesn't JC ever have to do the drive-through window? I'm so, effing tired of this and all that, So she lost her temper, started throwing things because she got jealous and mad about it, which, like I said, I do not blame her. And I do feel bad for it, but it's just something that I didn't learn how to do or nothing. And I still struggle with. But anyways, and I know I'm going all over the place like I usually do if I don't have a script, and I'm sorry. This is just me. But I just couldn't do it. So I tried it a few times, and then I started looking for a different job. and stuff. And then that's whenever I went back to being a CNA back in that time period for a while. And then I also went back to cleaning in hotels, like as a cleaning lady. But that was the main reason why I quit, is because my manager, even the one who had hired me on and was so good to me, after that girl threw a big fit, and at first she was against that girl. She even fired her, but then she hired her back because she threw a big fit like that. But I mean, she was like slinging over stuff, cussing, and it was in front of everybody. It was a big old showdown, or whatever you want to call it. But she ended up hiring her back, and I worked with her for a little while. And I was being trained to start doing those other jobs, and taken away from my original job. She was the one that was getting it. She was getting my original job, my position and stuff that I'd had for months working there. That's all I'd ever done. But because she threw such a daggone fit, like a child, she ended up with my position pretty much. But anyways, I don't know why or nothing. I'm sure because the company didn't want to get sued. I'm just speculating, though. I don't know that for a fact or nothing. And she seemed like she was the type that would go all into trying to sue for something back then. But I needed to learn it anyways, and that's the requirements, for anybody nowadays, is to be able to do that stuff. And that's what I'm saying is I still, even to this day, wouldn't be able to do that kind of job or nothing. And I'm sure that even nowadays, technology's probably advanced when it comes to cash registers and computers around here locally and stuff too, from even back then. But back to the Halloween stuff, I think that is the reason. Those are the main reasons that I know of, is because the social distancing thing. Parents, which they should be, parents are probably paranoid of their children and want to keep their children safe. And I'm not saying they shouldn't, I'm saying that they should be. And also, you have to be aware of strangers. And I mean, we didn't have a lot of that. There was always rumors of that stuff. There is still yet every year when it comes to Halloween. Like, you'll see rumors of people supposedly doing stuff to people's candy or whatever. But I don't know. I just think that all that stuff was always just rumors and stuff, because I never seen nothing, but it could be. I never seen anything when I was growing up with like people putting razors in candy and stuff like that. I think that's just talking rumors, but I could be wrong. But I'm sure it does go on. Don't get me wrong or nothing. I'm sure it does go on. I never seen nothing like that, even though there's always rumors and stuff around Halloween about stuff like that. And parents should go through their child's candy anyways before their child goes through it and starts eating on it as soon as they get back from trick-or-treating. The parents should go through their child's candy anyways. So that would solve all that. But I'm sure that those are some of the factors. And then too, just like I said, the economy just in general, because the cost of living on everything's just a fortune, and everything's just so high to live. So I'm sure that's it. And then too, like I said, the trunk or treat. And I like the trunk or treat. I don't blame that at all. I kind of wish that they had trunk or treat whenever my children were even younger and stuff. But they really didn't start there until my oldest daughter, and she's 21. So they didn't really start that until like the 2000s around here. And it's still not a huge thing around here where I live at, the trunk or treat, because like I said, they don't really have like big locations for it or nothing like that. There's only like a few small groups of people that, does it. And then, two, I just, I don't know. I think people are just, I don't know what it is. Maybe the weather too, a little bit this year, anyways. But I know Halloween sure ain't like how it was whenever I was growing up. Also, whenever I was growing up, people would give out. I mean, I'm sure some people still do that a little bit, but I'm sure it's not as much as what it used to be like when I was growing up. And I always liked it. That's like good memories for me. People would give you like apples. They would give you like change if they had any or money. I remember somebody would always give us like a pop because, like I said, when I was growing up and we went trick or treating, we would walk for miles all over the place and run. And also, I remember somebody that would make like homemade popcorn, caramel popcorn balls. And so it's just a lot of differences from how it was when I was growing up to how it is now when it comes to Halloween and trick or treating and stuff. It's a lot different than how it used to be when I was growing up. And I feel bad for my children and all these other generations to a point because they'll never experience some of those things like how it was whenever I was growing up. They'll never realize how fun it was. And then too, I think people are just lazier. I'm not trying to be mean. I am too. I'm overweight and fat. But it's just because technology. And then too, you got to think about all the other factors that causes weight gain. Medications, stress, whatever. There's so many factors to everything. But I'm sure just people like a child nowadays, if I was living in this time period, these generations, I don't think that would be too appealing to go and walk for miles or run for miles just to get candy whenever, back when I was growing up, we didn't get candy that often. That's something that we looked forward to, is the candy, because we would take like pillowcases and fill up the pillowcases, and we'd get like 2 or 3 pillowcases a piece full of candy from trick-or-treating back then when I was growing up. And also like extra bags. We'd get a ton and it would last us like all year long because we didn't buy candy but for the holidays back then. It wasn't something like an everyday thing. And I'm bad about it too, I admit to it. Even when my girls growing up in their time period, when I have the money or whatever, nothing's like special, if you know what I mean, like how it used to be, like designated time periods or whatever, so to speak. Like, they get candy whenever they want it. If I have the money for it, I buy it for them. I don't make them wait. I don't make them go without. So I think that's another reason why it's just for probably these children and stuff nowadays when it comes to trick-or-treating, it just don't seem like it's that fun, because they can get it all the time, so why are they going to look forward to it if it's something that they get all year long instead of just like at certain times of the year? So, and then too, like, well, I mean, I never did get a whole lot of money gave to me or nothing when I was trick-or-treating as a child, but I did look forward to it if someone was to give me like, it was maybe like $1 or $2, maybe $5 at the most, or 10 or something. And I think the only person that did that was back when my grandpa was alive next door, that used to live next door to me. My uncle is there now. And that was just because he was my grandpa. But I think he used to give me like sometimes like $5 or $10, maybe even 20 at Halloween. But I remember there was quite a few people back then up in these hollers, these older people back when I was a child. They would give you like handfuls of change or like maybe $1 or $2 at a time. And I just think that that's another thing, like the candy. Sorry, train's getting ready to go by, but I'll try to end this soon. But I think it's just like the candy. When it comes to money like that, not necessarily saying that I give my child or my children like money all the time, because I don't. Obviously, I don't, can afford it. But if I do have the money, I'm always buying them what they want. You know, if I have the money to buy it or whatever. So again, it's not that special, I guess, is what it used to be, like whenever I was growing up and stuff. And then too, I have noticed, which I think that's a good thing, I think that a lot of people are bringing back like Halloween parties or get-togethers, costume parties on Halloween night. So everything's at one destination, and I think that's a good thing too. But I still kind of feel bad to a point for these generations that they won't get some of those experiences like I did whenever I was a child and stuff. There's a rooster right there by that fence. I'll walk over here to the train and film it a little bit and then cut off this video. But I just kind of wanted to talk about that, what my thoughts was on it, why Halloween is so different than what it used to be. Well, any holiday really, but where Halloween just passed and stuff. Because today's November 2nd, 2025. But, and I remember, like, even adults used to dress up and stuff and go trick-or-treating with their children. Like, big old groups of people would back then. I just think there's a lot of factors. And I think with like anything else, I think the economy and money is a big factor to all that. There's a little ghost on the train. Someone's always drawing ghosts on them train carts. Here's a bunch of them. Graffiti. There's the caboose or the last of it. There has to be somebody's tag on that train like that where they draw them ghosts, because it's always a very similar little ghost that someone's always putting on it as a tag, but I wouldn't know who it was or anything like that. People just, I guess wherever the train parks its carts at to load up the coal, they just do graffiti, I guess, there. I'm not really sure how it works or nothing. But anyways, I guess I'll get off of here. I just kind of wanted to talk about Halloween in this video, since Halloween's only been a couple of days ago and it's over now. Y'all can tell me in the comments if you want to, if y'all have any memories or anything about Halloween, like how it was when you was growing up, or if you're growing up in this time period, how it's been for you and what you do and you don't like. But those are some good memories for me whenever I was a child growing up. Was just, I remember we would work so hard for it, walking and running. I would always try to race my sibling, and he was faster than I was, but we would run and try to beat each other to get to the candy first and stuff. But we looked forward to it as children, and we looked forward to it. Sometimes we would stop at this one person's house, and they would give us pops, or they would give us Kool-Aid, and we was wanting something cold to drink because we had ran so much and sweat. So it felt like we really earned it. So, and then too, I always liked getting I didn't really like getting the fruit, and I didn't really like getting but back then anyways, I didn't really like getting that strawberry wrapper candy that was strawberry flavored. And I hated back then getting that candy that was in a black wrapper and it was like a peanut butter flavor. I forgot the name of it. Or black licorice. I hated getting that as a child. I still hate black licorice. I think it's nasty. But I probably would like the peanut butter and the strawberry stuff now that I'm older. But that's something I hated getting in the fruit. When people would give us apples mostly. Apples, maybe a banana every now and then, or an orange or something. But it was mostly apples from what I remember. And people would, a lot of like older people back then would give you handfuls of change and stuff. But I always thought that was cool back then when I was a child growing up and stuff. And I always loved getting, back then, the candy cigarettes because I know that's bad, but we were stupid little children or whatever. And back then, whenever we would get all our candy, like the days after Halloween, we would go around and we would pretend. This is terrible, but that's how we are. That's how, what generation I come from or whatever. But it's a wonder why I never did get tempted, and I still don't have that temptation. I never will, but wonder why I never did get into the rugs or anything like that. But we would always act like our candy was stashes of rugs, and we would play with those candy cigarettes and stuff, and we would act like we were rug dealers and stuff whenever me and my sibling and my friends and stuff after Halloween with our candy and stuff growing up, and like those little Smarties candies. We used to crush those up. Man, we was I don't know why we was that that bad, but we would crush those up. And yes, we probably even did try to sniff them and stuff, the Smarties candies and stuff growing up. And those little, I think they're called pixie sticks or whatever, that has like the candy dust. We would sniff those too. We were bad. But I didn't take that path in my life. I can't speak on it for the other people who did. But that might have been why. I don't know why we was in there that or nothing though. Because me and my sibling didn't grow up with parents or anything that did rugs or anything. But we just always thought that was so cool when we was children growing up and stuff. Especially the little candy cigarettes and stuff. I love them. They used to have, which I think they still have them, but they only do them now for like, if a person has a baby or something, they have like those bubble gum, what are they called? I can't think of what I'm trying to say right now. They're not cigarettes, but they're, I can't think of the name of it. I don't smoke or do anything like that, so I can't think. Y'all know what I'm talking about though. Those bubblegum things they have for people after they have a baby. A cigar. Cigar is what I'm trying to think of and say. But they used to have those back then for children and stuff at Halloween too. They'd give them out as candy. And they used to have these rows, and I forgot what they're called. I think they're just called dots, but I could be wrong. And they was on a piece of paper, and there was these little dots of different colors of candy, and we would pretend like those were rugs and stuff too, you know, so because they looked like pills and stuff when we was growing up. But that's what we would do after Halloween. We would act like our candy was stashes, and we would go through it and act like we were rug dealers and get each other's candy and stuff. But I don't know why we did that. We were stupid, stupid children. Kids can be dumb, but back then it was fun or whatever, and it was a good memory. But I'm gonna get off here because I've been talking way too long, and I wasn't planning on speaking or making this into a long video. That's usually how it goes, though. Once I get started talking, I can't shut up. Or if I don't have a script, I'll just go all over the place. And so it is what it is. But I'm gonna get off here, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.